Hello, spirit lovers! I am Miroslava, sommelier and wine educator, your guide on this journey through the world of wines, spirits, and cocktails. Today, our hero is tequila, a Mexican spirit that has earned worldwide popularity. We will explore the history of tequila, its production technology, its types and styles, and other interesting aspects. Let's start with agave. The foundation of any spirit is the raw material used to its production. For brandy, it's grape vine. For rum, it's sugar cane. And for tequila, it's blue agave, also known as agave azul or agave teculiana. The domesticated variety of blue agave used for tequila production is named agave teculiana Weber azul. Tequila is often mistakenly referred as cactus vodka, but agave has no relation to cacti. The genus agave belongs to the Asparagaceae family and includes 166 species. This number from time to time changes as phylogenetic analysis improves, leading to species being reclassified into different genera. However, this detail is not crucial for our purpose. Of the 166 species, 135 grow in Mexico. This brings us to the geographical identification of spirits. Not all spirits have it. Rum, for example, does not. It can be produced anywhere. But tequila definitely does. It can only be produced in 5 Mexican states: Jalisco, Guanajuato, Michoacán, Nayarit, and Tamaulipas. The name tequila comes from the tequila settlement, which was established by Franciscan friars in 1530. Tequila, located in the state of Jalisco, obtained city status at the end of the 19th century. Now the city serves as a center of tequila production. The largest plantations of blue agave are located around tequila. There is no tequila without agave. Agaves are succulents adapted to life in semi-desert regions. A typical agave plant features a large bundle of hard, fleshy, long leaves on the usually short, thick stalk. Agave blooms once in its lifetime, and the time until its bloom depends on the species. The longest-lived agave can wait up to 60 years to bloom, where the blue agave reaches blooming age in 5 to 12 years, depending on the elevation of its habitat. At higher altitudes, everything takes longer. By the time of blooming, the plant accumulates plenty of sugars in its stalk, up to 25% of stalk weights, grows a long flower spike, blooms, produces seeds, and then dies, passing all its accumulated nutrients to its offspring, much like the salmon of a plant's world. Since ancient times, agave has been the most important household plant for the local people. It was used completely from top to bottom. The plant provided construction materials. Part of it was used to make ropes, needles, and other useful items, and the heart of the stalk was used for food. Naturally, it had also been used for making alcohol. Pulque is a traditional alcoholic beverage that has been produced from fermented agave sap in the Americas for centuries. It remains popular in Mexico even today. The production process is quite specific. First, you find an agave that is ready to bloom and has started to grow a flower spike. At this moment, the heart of its stalk is rich in carbohydrates. Cut the spike and create a hole in the stalk about 30 centimeters in diameter. Sap will accumulate in the hole and fermentation will start right there. You collect the sap daily. A good agave can yield up to 5 liters per day by approximately 5 months until it's exhausted. The best agaves can continue producing sap for up to a year. After this period, the agave will die, yielding up to 1000 liters of sap. The collected sap is then fermented in vats, with mature pulque added for a jump start for the fermentation process. The result is a milk-colored, somewhat viscous liquid with a sour, yeasty taste and alcohol content of 2 to 8%. Pulque should be consumed quickly before it spoils. So, agave has grown on American soil, and alcoholic beverages have been produced from it for centuries. However, pulque is not tequila, and the second key factor in tequila's origin was the Spanish conquista. In 1519, the first Spanish colonists set their foot on Mexican land and began to reshape it to suit their own needs. At that time, Spain was already a well-developed vinicultural country. They grew plenty of grapes and produced good wines, as well as brandy, which were especially popular among sailors, because it survived longer sea transportation better than delicate wine. This means that the Spaniards were accustomed to having a good supply of wine and brandy. Initially, colonists brought wine and brandy from Spain, but transportation by sea, especially in those times, was expensive. So they planted vineyards with wines from Spain on Mexican soil. Many areas in Mexico are suitable for viniculture. If they had continued to grow grapes and produce their own wine and brandy, tequila might never have become into existence. However, at that moment, greed entered the scene. At some point, King Philip II of Spain decided that the country was not reaping enough benefits from its colonies. In 1595, he banned the planting of new vineyards in old Spanish colonies. All existing vineyards were passed to monasteries for their needs. Colonists were required to buy alcohol from the motherland, so paying large sums of money to the treasury. The colonists were upset. Sobriety was not the norm of the Spanish lifestyle, but paying huge amounts of money to the historical motherland was not a good option either. Of course, they had already tried local pulque, but it could not compete with wine and brandy. However, pulque revealed agave as a potential source of raw material, and the rest was a matter of skills and technological details. In 1600, just 5 years after the king's ban, Don Pedro Sanchez de Talge, Marquis de Altamira, founded the first factory for mezcal production and made the first mezcal. He is now known as the father of tequila. A few words should be said about mezcal and its relationship with tequila. Aphoristically speaking, all tequilas is mezcal, but not all mezcal is tequila. The subset tequila is a part of the larger set mezcal. Mezcal is a distilled alcohol beverage made from agave. The word mezcal literally means cooked agave, derived from the Nahuatl words melt agave and escali, cooking in the oven. Similar to tequila, but mezcal can be made from any type of agave. About 30 species are used, with 7 being the most popular, while tequila can only be made from blue agave. Of course, tequila did not separate from mezcal immediately. At the beginning, any agave was used. However, at some point, it was noticed that the product that made from one type of agave, blue agave, was distinct. In 1758, King Ferdinand VI of Spain granted a land title in the town of Tequila to Don Jose Antonio de Cuevra. Don Jose founded a farm where he cultivated blue agave. In 1795, the first vino mezcal de Tequila de Jose Cuevra was made, and at the same time, Don Jose's son, Don Jose Maria Guadalupe de Cuevra, was granted a permit from the King Carlos IV of Spain to produce tequila commercially. This can be considered the birth of tequila. It existed under the name Mezcal de Tequila until 1893, when the Mexican government removed the word mezcal from the name. Today, Jose Cuevra is the best-selling brand of tequila, accounting about 20% of all tequila consumed worldwide. In 1902, French botanist Frédéric Albert Constantin Weber, during a Mexican expedition, described a classified blue agave. The source of tequila raw material were officially defined. In 1974, tequila was granted the appellation of origin control. It was the history of tequila's origin. Now let's talk about the technology. Of course, everything starts with agave. About 22,000 farmers in Mexico cultivate around 400 million agave plants. Each agave grows for 5 to 12 years until it reaches maturity, producing an average of 32 kilograms of herbs, piñas. It takes approximately 7 kilograms of piña to produce 1 liter of tequila. It is crucial to monitor the agave plants to prevent them from blooming. Flowers and people are direct competitors for the sugars accumulated in the piña. As soon as the flower bud appears, it is cut and planted in the soil to give life to another plant. Agave can be propagated by seeds, root layers, or rooting cut flowers buds. Since flower buds needs to be cut anyway, it is logical to use them for propagation. As a result, most cultivated agaves are now clones. When the agaves are ripe, train it worker Pomodoros, cut them down, chop off the leaves, and deliver the stalks, which look like oversized pineapples, to a processing location. The pinus must be thermally treated to convert polysaccharides into simple sugars, making them suitable for fermentation by yeast. This process is carried out in large ovens, technically autoclaves. The pinus are treated for 24 to 48 hours and then cooled down for another 16 to 48 hours. Each distillery selects the specific temperature and duration based on their particular preferences and expertise. The thermal treatment stage highlights another difference between tequila and mezcal. For tequila, pinus are always cooked in autoclaves where they are treated with steam. For mezcal, pinus can also be cooked in autoclaves, but they can be alternatively baked in pit ovens, which imparts a smoky flavor to the drink. Once the pinus are baked, they are shredded to extract the juice. Next stage, fermentation. All tequila can be divided into two main categories based on agave juice content. 100% agave tequila, made exclusive from agave juice with nothing else added. The label will indicate agave or 100% pure de agave. Mixta. Agave juice is combined with other sugars, usually cane or corn. By the amount of agave juice must be at least 51%. Naturally, all higher quality tequila belongs to the first category. During fermentation, the juice is either diluted to achieve the required sugar concentration, or conversely, other sugars are added for mixta. Yeast are introduced and fermentation process in large open tanks, which can be wooden, stone, or steel, for 34 to 94 hours until the mosta is ready, 4 to 6% alcohol by volume. The mosta is then distilled at least twice using copper pot stills or a combination of pot stills with liquefaction columns. This process results a distillate of 55 to 75%. The best producer prefer to maintain at 55% to preserve the agave aroma in the product. The final stages involve aging for some products, blending, adding various compounds in some cases, filtration, dilution to final concentration 35 to 55, and bottling. Tequila is divided into the following categories: Blanca, Plata or Silver. The white tequila that is unaged or aged in stainless steel or in neutral oak for less than 2 months. Oven, Ora or Gold. The best rare example is a mix of aged and unaged tequila. More frequently, it is unaged tequila, often mixed, colored with caramel to look aged. Reposado, the rested tequila, aged in oak barrels of any size from 2 to 12 months. Añeja, aged in small, less than 600 liters oak barrels for 1-3 years. Muy Extra Añeja, aged in small oak barrels for at least 3 years. Curadas, flavored with different ingredients, mixta. Cristalina, aged tequila that has been chocolate filtered or distilled to remove color. It is important to address the misconception of tequila with a worm. This is false from the beginning to the end. First, it is not a worm, it is a larva. The larva of a moth, Chamadia retinbacheri, which lives on agave plants. It is never added to tequila. Adding it, in fact, is prohibited by the law. Sometimes it can be added to mezcal. Historically, some producers did this to demonstrate that the beverage was not diluted. A larva would decay in the low alcohol content. Nowadays, it is purely a commercial gimmick. So, there is not such a thing as a tequila with a worm. How to serve tequila? First, it can be enjoyed as it is. For this purpose, aged tequila is often preferred. However, if you want to appreciate the pure taste of agave, younger tequila is better suited. It is also very popular for shots. Outside Mexico, Tequila is often served with a salt and slice of lime. In formal settings, the rim of a glass is covered with salt. In less formal settings, salt is placed on the back of a customer's hand. In very informal situation, salt may be placed on the other parts of the body, preferably someone else's. The ritual is to lick the salt, drink the tequila, and then eat the lime. Repeat as desired. In Mexico, tequila is typically enjoyed without salt and lime, sometimes accompanied by a side of sangrita. Don't confuse sangrita with sangria. Sangrita is a mix of orange, lime, and pomegranate juices with a hot pepper sauce. Tequila and sangrita are served in small glasses at room temperature. Second, tequila is excellent base for cocktails, with countless recipes available. Margarita is the cocktail that particularly made tequila popular in the United States. It has now expanded in the whole cocktail family. We will definitely talk more about margaritas. Tequila blanca is more often used for cocktails, although it depends on the specific cocktail. Today I have Don Sergio Tequila Blanca. It's produced by Casa Maestri, reputed tequila distillery. The agave for this tequila is grown in Highland Plantation of San Juan, Jalisco. It's made from 100% agave. This is Tequila Blanca, aged for 6 months in white American oak, allowing us to truly appreciate the taste of agave. Let's serve it in a formal European way, making the video safe for work. Coat the outside rim of a glass with lime juice. Dip into salt. Pour tequila. This one for you. This one for me. This is high quality tequila. It's drinks nicely, neat, and will be perfect for the cocktail. We will definitely revisit tequila based cocktail later. By the way, tequila has its own special day, July 24th. Don't forget to mark it in your calendars. Stay with me, subscribe to my channel, feel free to ask questions, and don't hesitate to support me. Salud!